Oh, yeah, that's it. Halo. That's right. Halo is finally here, guys. Thank you so much for joining us from Apocalypse Movies. My name is Gio. I'll be the host this week for Halo series review episode 1 titled Contact. And joining me from Flick and Reel, it's Sean Wingblade. What's
What's
up?
uh what's up, Gio? Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And I
I'm excited.
Yeah, love having you on, man. And Halo, I mean, like, if you haven't heard, Halo is this phenomenon video game franchise that absolutely dominated first person shooter video games for a good 10, 12 years, I would say. Um, my
Yeah.
opinion, of course. But we're here to talk about episode 1, Contact. This will be full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the episode, we appreciate you being here. Check it out. Highly recommend it. Before we get into the series, I just want to talk real quick about our background with Halo, Sean. Um, your experience, your exposure with the video games. Go ahead, take it away.
Thank you for asking. I had the very first Xbox, and I was curious too because it's not necessarily in the pop culture phenomenon as much nowadays as it was, back in the mid 2000s or so.
Right.
But now, and I haven't seen these, but apparently there's lore books, right? So there's like 30 plus books
Yeah.
on the history and whether they're all considered canon or not. I don't know. I haven't
Hmm.
actually like delved into them. But it's more than just the video games, and it's so much more than just the story that we see over the course of what have we got? 7 main storyline games, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
counting right.
If you include,
Um,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
the
if you
other
don't
one.
count like ODST and like those ones, which are analogs or parallels to the story. But
Right.
my history is I had the very first Xbox, played the very first game. My buddy introduced me to it. You couldn't do too much. You could run through the story, beat it on legendary, and get like the secret ending and stuff. With the Colonel or the Colonel like kissing the the Covenant guy at the end when the planet or the Halo blows up. Spoilers.
Whoa.
Sorry for a 2000 or 20-year-old game. But Halo 2, I think, is where it took off, right? Because they they just expanded among the universe, but also the multiplayer gameplay. And while there were definitely like other first person shooter games on the market, I think Counter Strike was also very popular back then with a lot of PC players and game systems. But they hit at the right moment for the online multiplayer to explode, and there were so many nights playing Halo 2 into the wee hours of the morning, skipping high school the next day,
Yeah.
much to our parents' chagrin, and just ruining our academic lives at that moment. We're like, yeah, I know, I don't feel good, and then go to work, and
Mhm.
then I'm gonna play Halo again all day long. So that's where it kicked off, and I've played every game, even the most recent one, which I haven't finished yet. I just recently started it a few months ago, and I haven't dived into it, but yeah, early to mid 2000s with Halo and Halo 2 is my jumping off point, I guess. Is where my familiarity and it got better too, and then watching like Red versus Blue on Rooster Teeth and all
That's
of the
right,
the
yeah.
shorts. Yep, those were
Mhm.
like hilarious when the internet was exploding
Yeah.
20 years ago, and the viral videos that they would have and all the shows and stuff. Hilarious. Hilarity ensued. It was good times.
Yeah, I'm with you. My obsession with Halo really started with 2, and, I could just remember, doing the split screens and,
Mhm.
having those battles or even doing a local link where you have, like, 8
No.
players and whatnot, and then I would go on to, like, watch, MLG, Major League Gaming, and all
Mhm.
the, competitive stuff, and it was the thing, man. It really was, and I just, I'm sure you've also been looking forward to some live action
Mhm.
content, when
Oh yeah.
Peter Jackson was supposed to direct,
Um,
Neil Blomkamp, you had a couple of, I think it was like a YouTube series, Forward Onto Dawn or something
Uh-huh.
like that.
Yep,
Yeah,
I watched that about 2 or 3 or 4 years ago now. Jesus, the pandemic has screwed up time. But yeah, it was like 4 or 5 years ago now when those came out. It was quite a while
and
ago.
it gave us something, we took it, we appreciated it, but it didn't feel like what we should have gotten. And with this series, I've had, nothing but good positive vibes,
Mhm.
excitement leading up to the series. They're putting real money behind it, $10 million per
Yeah.
episode, and you can kind of see it in this one, man. We'll get to that and we'll elaborate, but
Mhm.
so we got our exposure. What do you think of this first episode? Just, general thoughts of,
Well,
yeah.
have you dove into any of the lore books? I'm curious. Have you
I
picked up
have
a
not.
single Okay. So
I have not.
I know nothing of the lore books. I only know what the games presented us. And I think a week ago, is when I first heard maybe it might have been a video of yours on this channel, where they didn't play the games at all, or they're not pulling from that story beats
They didn't
whatsoever.
even look at the games when
Right.
writing the series, yeah.
So I'm wondering if they're going off of the lore books, and that'll be something I don't want to spoil for myself. Um, if they did do that, I don't want to dive in now after seeing the first episode and gonna push through the next 8 weeks.
Sure,
Maybe afterwards, I'll do that. But the thing I did love about this first episode is I had no idea what was about to happen because I
sure.
do know the games, and I'm like, oh yeah, they're gonna do this, they're gonna do that, they're gonna save the universe, kill the Covenant, flood, etc. No, that's not the case, there's a lot of contention between, the refugees and the Marines, the UNSC, right?
Yeah,
UNSC? And there's obviously not everything is, "Oh, those are saviors." There's not this hero worship going on
right.
to the Spartans, and we have a whole team of Spartans, which is not something we had,
Mhm.
necessarily because we just followed Master Chief. So that was my first impression was, I have no idea about what is going to happen. I'm not like, "Oh, I've seen this a million time. Oh, I've read the comics. I know the beat for beat. I know the dialogue." No, I was just like I was watching it at work, so I was glued to my phone when I should have been working, watching it in my work van, and I was excited, about basically every new scene, and then you get all the intrigue with the generals and whoever's in charge of like the science program and everything that's going on back in the science station, which I don't remember the name of that, because we don't
It's
start
on
there.
Reach, by the way.
Is it on Reach? Okay, maybe I missed that part, but
Yeah.
yeah, that it it's good to go in where it kept you hooked and kept you intrigued because it wasn't like a familiar story. It was familiar enough, but it wasn't rehashing the same story we've seen over and over again.
Right. I mean, for fans of the video game, there's a lot in here as far as familiarity, whether you're
Mhm,
talking about characters, mannerisms,
mhm.
sound effects. You're like, oh my God, I haven't heard, an elite going invisible
Yeah.
in like so many years, but it immediately clicked, in my brain. And you're absolutely right, dude. There's something to appreciate about the story and not knowing where it goes. They could have easily did all that, and it's like, yeah, you could just watch the cutscenes on YouTube and get the
Mhm.
whole story.
Yeah.
Really, you spent 9 episodes, $90 million plus marketing, and like $100 million on just rehashing everything.
Right.
And it's gonna throw some fans off, and make them upset, I guess you could
Oh,
say, and which
there
is valid. I
there's a
mean,
lot of angry gamer fanboys, I think, and, quite a few headlines. I didn't wanna read the articles because I hadn't watched the episode yet, but I saw quite a few headlines this morning before I got a chance to watch it going, "Oh, Halo, they crapped the bed on this one," or they didn't do the story justice." I'm like, "Alright, well, I guess we'll see." I loved it, but, maybe people of the, fans of the source material. I mean, I don't know if I subscribe to the notion that a fandom on the internet could be divided, so maybe that's just
yeah, that's a whole different
me.
conversation. But one of the things I noticed not too far into like the first 10 minutes was how violent
Yeah.
this series is, man. I
Energy,
mean,
blood splattered explosions,
blood splatters, let alone kids. I mean,
right?
my god. It was like I felt like I was watching Order 66, but like,
Right.
the R-rated version, and it was this little village, and they did not hold back, and I appreciate that as a fan of the video game because I remember playing the games and like so the Covenant, which are the aliens, as a refresher, the elites, they're
Mhm,
just the warriors, the badass and whatnot. And I remember playing the video games when you would encounter them the first time, and you'd be like, or like an ambush, and you'd be like, "Whoa!"
mhm.
And I thought they captured the the whole threat of the elites,
Yeah.
amazing in here. Could have used a little bit of work on the, visual, effects of the elites, in my opinion. Um, did that catch you off at all, or
There, I mean, obviously a full CG character, maybe some mocap or something involved, but
Right.
I'm playing the video or the show right here too as we're talking, but you can definitely tell there are some parts where even with the Spartans, like, oh, that's full CG. Which it could have been a practical suit, it could have been a practical gun or whatever the case, but that all right, that looks a little off, that looks a little wonky. Now that
Mhm.
image looks great, but and you could they those suits look tangible. I
Sure.
wonder if they maybe made some mock-ups of the elites with a tangible I'm talking like go back to the 90s with like Ninja Turtles or the Guyver where they got these
Sure.
monster suits. That could have looked really cool with an obviously with an elite covenant skin on it, essentially.
Mhm.
So I
Yeah.
wonder if they did that at least for reference. But all of the action, I mean, there is so much action, there's so much movement that you couldn't do a lot of that stuff in practical with guns and bullets and stuff flying everywhere. And energy too, because they have obviously they have their energy
Force
shields up
field
and
or
stuff.
not
Yeah.
yeah, shields. Yeah.
Right. So it is what it is. I mean, but it looks great overall, but there are some wonky parts. I think that's to be even with, the even with Avengers Endgame, like there's still some like slight wonky parts on certain things
Mhm.
where a character's arm might move a certain way or whatever, but it's
Right.
whatever. I still like the first Harry Potter. Do you remember the goblin scene in Harry Potter? The thing looked garbage. But I still love
Man,
it.
you
It
going
looks
out,
good.
man. You throwing out Marvel, Harry Potter, nobody's safe on this,
No,
stream.
I'm coming. I'm coming for you.
Yeah, so, a very tragic start to this series, man. Like you're introduced to this young girl who's a part of this village and the daughter of a general who is like, you know, somewhat protective. I mean, the daughter was out there running
Mhm.
uh, beyond the outpost and whatnot. And he's just going about his business, and next thing you know, you see a Covenant ship right there. By the
Mhm.
way, that looked pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And then you start to hear all these troubling noises and whatnot. And then before you know it, the whole village is just wiped out, man. But you get some pretty awesome firefights between the Spartans and the elites.
Oh yeah.
They're the only ones we see. We don't see any other of the covenants, right? Like the
Mhm.
jackals
The
or
grunts.
the
No.
grunts. Yeah.
Mhm.
I hope we'll see brutes at some point. I know
Yeah.
we're getting into, for those of you who haven't played the video games, there's more to the Covenant besides these elites. And
Yeah.
if they even go anywhere near what happens to the elites in the games, that I mean that wow, yeah.
Mhm.
But
I can
um
see that season 2, 3 down the road. They have such a wealth of story that they can mine as they go forward. So yeah, we'll see more backstory, I'm sure.
Right. And let's talk about this guy real quick because he is somebody that we have been looking forward to. I mean, we know who he is. We know the armor. He has a superhero landing. First time we see him to
From
reference
jump, from jump, he had superhero landing
from
right away.
jump. Absolutely. How great does his armor look, man? I mean, you kind of touched on it, but I thought it looked great. Maybe the best it's ever looked.
Oh yeah.
Um, your quick thoughts on that?
Yeah, he looks like a Halloween costume about to try to save up for. He looks great. Yeah, he looked and Pablo Schreiber, they picked, I feel like, the right guy muscular wise and size and build and height wise to, I think, like realistically embody the Master Chief, because he's never been the size of the other humans, whether that be the extra suit of armor or his actual person inside. But like you get a guy like the guy who's playing like Jack Reacher right now, Alan Richardson or
Hmm.
Pablo Schreiber, like tall, built, huge, and absolutely that's the person you want inside the suit. And it is weird though, like seeing him, he looks great. He sounds not what I remember because obviously it's not the original Master Chief.
Oh, that was
Deep,
an iconic voice.
deep,
Yeah.
yeah, right. And I don't know if it was the same actor for all the movie or all the show games, but um, that's something to miss. But I think that's just something to get used to. You're going to get different iterations of characters throughout pop culture with any fandom or with any type of IP. So it is what it is.
Yeah. And he's not alone. There are other
Yes.
Spartans as well, which I welcome.
Yep.
Um the fact that their home planet is Reach, I don't want to get too much into that, but I'm like, is are we gonna see what happens to Reach if you remember in the video games? I'm like, I probably not. Maybe in the future seasons if they look at the
Yeah.
games.
That
Yeah.
could be. I mean, that could be depending on how long like the showrunners you're going to have a full story in your head, right? Whether or not you go 6 seasons or you cap it at 2 because the interests are wind down. um I think that you could do a full season focused on the current political machinations that are going on, because there is a lot of stuff that we hit towards the tail end of this episode, like not everything is great in paradise type of thing. So that could be like a great cliffhanger, where we get to, see what happens to Reach and the destruction that ensues from all the invading alien forces and this and that and whatever. So I'd be curious. And I don't remember the story very clearly because it was so many years ago when I played,
Right.
but you remember how the storyline goes 'cause they continued it on in future games. So I don't know.
You know, you mentioned the political side of this, and that's something we can definitely get into because it's a bigger part than I thought it would be.
Mhm,
I mean, I can understand bringing it up because times are very tough right now. They said in the series they don't know who we're dealing with, where they're at. We've been
mhm,
fighting them for
yeah,
years, but we know little to nothing about them. And you think it's going to be good versus bad, but there's bad on the good side,
mhm,
whether it's intentional or not. They're all about this image and whatnot. They touched on it a lot during the firefight where it's like this propaganda with the Spartans and the
mhm,
UNSC and whatnot, and then what that ultimately leads to in the episode with Survivor, the general's daughter.
mhm,
By the way, the whole village is wiped out,
yeah,
and her refusing to play along, especially given what just happened. It's like, now you want me to put on a face and put on this performance, essentially.
mhm.
I thought they touched on it pretty well.
Yeah. They're
Yeah.
they're absolutely, and I'm very uneducated on the insurgents and revolutions, but um, there's obviously a lot of class warfare going on. I think with these outposts where they are, out there mining colony, or they essentially look like the working class, right? They're shunned to like an outer rims, and they obviously have issues with the Spartans because they're afraid of them. They're afraid of the UNSC, of the overriding organization, because they think that they're going to come be monsters or maybe like slave drivers or
Right.
whatever the case is. These ones happen to show up to defend them, without any regard though for their actual safety. I think they were more so like just hunting down the covenant.
Right.
But there's history there. There's definitely a lot of stuff that's happened. And she says that in the senior, speaking about like, hey, my father was fighting to free our people from you and from your lordship, your lording over us, your
Right.
control basically. And
Mhm.
so there's I I don't think that this is the only colony. This is not the only, people in the universe per se, or that are gonna be the ones who want to get out from under the control of the governing organization. So there might be more of that. There might be more human versus human uh, insurgencies essentially going on that and more so than just Covenant versus Spartan. There might be a lot of human to human, conflict happening throughout the season.
Something like a civil war breaking
Yeah.
out
Mhm.
within that, and we've seen that in the video games with the other side.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
in the games, that's a big storyline. Before we continue, we got a question here. Did they ever reveal Master Chief's real name in the games? They did, right? I thought it was like John, right?
Mhm.
That's
I remember Cortana saying John. I don't think they ever revealed his childhood history. I don't think that I remember at least,
I don't
or at
remember
least
that at all.
it wasn't highlighted at least. Maybe they said something or because a lot of times there's like Easter eggs like in some of those games where you can like instead of just running through and killing all the bad guys going towards the end, you can always like log into a computer terminal and you could like read the backstory or the logs and stuff. So
Right.
I think they did do that in one of the games where there was a lot of
Mhm.
Easter eggs you could pick up. I never got that story at least from it. But they didn't pull off the games anyway, so they're obviously pulling from different story, different lore. So maybe it's more prevalent. It's the type of thing that you could skip over when you're writing out a full book. There's a lot of details you leave out when you make the movie version because you kind of do it the show don't
Right.
tell type of thing. So you got to skip
Sure.
stuff. So now they're showing us though.
While we're talking about Master Chief, how did you feel about the removal of the helmet? Did it bother
Yeah.
you?
Um. No,
Or yeah,
it didn't bug me at all because I think that was by the time that happened, which was like the last 10 minutes of the show,
yeah.
last 15 minutes maybe. I had already bought into the fact that this is not gonna be the story I remember. This is gonna be a divergent not storyline, divergent story of the same, general principles of the characters that I know and love type of thing.
Mhm.
So, if it would have happened from jump, it would have been an issue, I think. "What? Master Chief never takes you never see his face. You never" this, that, the
Sure.
other. But I think by that time, I had already kind of realized and bought into the fact, like, "Oh, I don't know what's about to happen." From scene to scene, I'm not I'm on board. I don't know what's gonna happen next, but I'm excited to see it. And I was like, "All right, cool." Plus, you get an actor like Pablo, and you're gonna he's a tall, handsome dude. You can't not, like, have him wear his helmet just 24/7. He's gonna take it off at some point. I'm shocked that The Mandalorian, like, they haven't had him take his helmet off more, in that series.
Not yet.
But right, not yet.
Mhm.
But I think in this one, I don't know, maybe they learned from that. Maybe they're like, "Hey, maybe we should show him off just a little more. We are paying this actor a lot of money to play this role. Maybe we should actually use him, put him to some good use." I dug it. I thought it was fine. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I thought, Pablo did a great job. For me, he was a standout in that
Mhm,
movie Den of Thieves from a few years back. That's my
mhm.
only exposure to him as an
Jerry B.
actor. As far as removing the helmet, I thought it worked within the context of
Yeah,
the episode. I mean, here you have this young girl who, for a moment, she was probably like, oh, maybe UNSC isn't bad. Maybe Spartans aren't bad. I mean, I just got saved. I mean, granted, everyone died, but I'm alive. I'm still processing it. And then, of course, what the UNSC asks her to do, and then you have um, Master Chief kind of in the middle of all this, and what he did, I thought proved a lot as far as hopefully changing her perception of the Spartans and whatnot.
yeah,
There's a shot early on in the firefight where she's saying like wait, and they just continue walking because they
yeah,
don't care, they just want to go and see.
yeah.
And by him taking off his helmet, he's like, look, I'm like you.
Mhm.
I wish I had more of a story or something, but I'm kind of figuring that out on my own, and we'll get to that real quick. Um, but I thought it worked. I had
Yeah,
zero issues with it. Um, Now, every now and then, sure, you could take off the helmet, but keep that helmet on. There's a reason why that outfit, is so iconic. It's
Right.
badass. Keep
It's
it.
armor. Yeah. You're gonna be a lot of fights. It's armor. So yeah, keep it on. It showed a lot of vulnerability, and also I think it gave us
Vulnerability,
a
love it. Yep.
yeah, it gave us a way to try to relate to him type of thing. Like, hey, because I mean, he's such a strong, imposing character physically,
Oh,
and
yeah.
obviously, through all the games and I'm sure all the stories, he's still around. So we as an audience need to connect to him. And so I think that's a good way to kind of get us on board, not just with ancillary characters on the side like her, she could be our conduit to kind of write out this storyline, but also with him and to root for him type of thing. And obviously, whatever happened when he touched the Covenant thing artifact,
Relic. Yep.
relic, yeah,
Yeah.
uh, set him on this path because like you just said, he was so cold earlier in the compound, and then obviously now he's remembering all these things from his past. That gives us a way to kind of root for him and for him to kind of find out the truth.
Yeah. Watching all of that, I was like, okay, I see what the early buzz was about the comparisons to Mandalorian. It didn't
Mhm.
bother me though. I mean, come on now. It's like that's not Mandalorian wasn't the first to do that. And it's
Right.
just I get recent memory and whatnot. Um, everyone's all about originality and all that stuff. Covenant, we got to see a prophet.
Hmm.
It was Mercy, right? There's
um I
I
don't
think it
remember the
was,
name.
yeah, Mercy. There's several of them.
Oh yeah.
Truth,
Hmm.
Mercy, and one more. I can't remember.
Okay.
Um, now, see, here's the thing. The the trailers, and we're gonna get into a little bit of video game lore like stuff here. It showed the flood.
Okay. Hmm.
It showed the home world of the Covenant. I'm asking you as somebody who's played the game. What are the chances that we see the flood and these parasites and all that completely overtake that and present a conflict on that side? Would that be too much for the first season, or should they keep it
Mm.
basic?
um in the game, the flood is never the overarching villain, right?
No,
It's a side mission, not side mission.
they're
It's
the
part of
thorn on the
this.
side.
Yeah, yeah, it's a part of the story when you're running through, like, the Covenant homeworld and the various places you're visiting, um, that they're just kinda getting in the way, but there's no brain behind the operation there, they're kinda just parasites in the way, um, so it could be I wonder if they might do, like, a bottle episode type of thing, where they give us a sympathetic Covenant character similar to the games where you have the Arbiter, right? That if I remember
Arbiter.
right? And so give us their backstory and them dealing with like the Covenant as this parasite that's trying to destroy their homeworld type of thing.
Hmm.
And then somehow intersect it and interweave it with, our main storyline with John and the rest of the Spartans and Yen, I can't remember what the character's name was. So yeah, it
Heard
could
it was a
be.
while. Yeah.
I don't think I don't think there ever needs to be because there's no brain because it'd be a pointless thing. Like there's no one's gonna root for it. We're just gonna want to kill it and blow it up type of thing for the flood. So we don't need to focus that too hard on that. I think.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is my niece right here.
Let her talk. She wants to talk.
Yes, please. Oh my god.
I'm
Sorry
curious for
about this.
anyone. No, all good, all good. I'm curious for anyone listening too. If there's anyone in the live chat, like, what is your guys' your background with the Halo story, whether it be the games, the books, or are you coming to this for the first time? Is this your first go about with hearing about any of this crap we're talking about? Any of the Covenant, the Flood? Does any of this mean anything to anybody out there, or
You
did you
guys
just
will
like
have
the
to
show?
forgive me. All right, this is our latest star, my niece. Love you.
Hi,
You want to say hi? You can
hi.
go ahead and say hi. We interrupt your scheduled programming to bring you Nora, my niece. I love you.
Are those
I'm
flashcards? What do you have in front of your face?
You got flashcards right here. Okay. I'll be outside soon, okay? Thank you, Stardew. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. That's almost a cue. So let's get to the ending. Master Chief faced with, okay, do I follow orders like I have been? Outstanding Spartan, very decorated, very well known, or do I ignore orders to kill this girl after she refused to play nice and whatnot? And it leads to this, I thought, was pretty damn good, escape and whatnot with the relic and all that. And
Yeah.
who knows where it goes from here? I mean, are Spartans going to go and hunt him down? All of a sudden, Spartan be Spartan, and in the background of the Covenant. What did you think of that final act?
Well, well, we have the scientist. Why am I forgetting her name? I just blinked.
Hold on,
Starts with an
let
M.
me take a
Miranda.
look.
Um, we obviously have her with not necessarily evil intentions, but her own seems like her own goals in mind.
Right.
She is more interested in keeping her pet projects alive. And you get that from that scene where she commands the other Spartans, like, you protect your brother. We don't care about the rest of these humans, basically. Like,
Yeah.
like you go ahead and turn fire on, and they were about to, in the scene with the gunship at the end
Mhm.
there. Uh,
Those pelicans,
but
by the way, man,
yes,
beautiful.
um, so there's also that's gonna be, some sort of undercutting from the inside type of thing. Whereas, John is out here doing it very obviously because he's turning away from his training and his commands and his orders. But I think she's gonna be, his his linchpin on the inside type of thing, maybe undercutting because she doesn't care about the people, the politics, whatever. She just wants the science and she wants her pet projects to stay alive. Um, so I don't know what the question. What was your question? What'd you ask me?
Well, no, I just want to know, like, your thoughts on how that all that played out and where you think it could go into the
Oh,
next episode.
I mean, it seems like I think he's going to go into an investigation type of like, let's figure out where this relic came from and
Right.
how do I get my memories back? And I think that will kind of lead him back to thank you, Gordon. That'll lead him back to Halsey
Halsey.
to kind of figure out the truth. Where did I come from? Oh wait, yeah, she's the scientist that created me, that created this whole program. I need to
Right.
go back to Reach, back to the station where everyone was trying to kill me just now. And maybe he'll stash the girl first and make sure she's, put off to safety. But I think it'll bring, and we see as much in the previews. We see a scene where she's like looking at the relic, so obviously they get their hands on it somehow.
Mhm.
If you dive too far into, screenshotting the trailers, you're gonna get spoiled for some stuff. But I don't know which way it'll go. That's the good part about this show. It's exciting. I don't know where the story's going.
Oh, yeah. So we talked about the unpredictability, okay? This is coming
Mhm.
from people who have played the video games, okay?
Yeah.
So we're right there with you. There are moments that we definitely geek out about, little fan service moments here and there, but in the end, I would say a really solid start to a series with a lot of promise.
Yeah.
What would you say?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm 100% on board. This wasn't going to be for me a show that I stayed up till midnight to watch. I was like, all right,
Mhm.
cool. Like I know the story, I've played the games. I'm excited to see it, but I'm not gonna. This is not like a Marvel show where it's like WandaVision, like what's the next spoiler? Every week there was like I can't be spoiled by Twitter type of
All these
thing.
theories and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I think after this first episode, it has become that for me. So I think I will be staying up till 1 a.m. We're on the West Coast.
Mhm.
So staying up till midnight to watch it and 1 a.m. to watch through the full episode, even though I got to get up 5 hours later for work. So they've got me hooked on board where it is now a must see show immediately. Now, which though upsets me a bit because I was scrolling through Twitter this morning when I woke up. I hadn't watched it
Yeah.
yet. no one was talking about it. There was like maybe like from the normal people, and I follow a ton of people in the industry. A lot of the people, same people we all, everyone in the chat, you follow as well. A lot of
Right.
the Schmodown people or industry people or reviewing people. Not many people were talking about it. No one was tweeting about it. It wasn't like one of the Marvel shows, or the Disney Plus shows, Star Wars shows, where everyone was tweeting about it
And
like first
trending and
impressions.
whatnot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that upsets me a bit. I was really excited, and yeah, I don't know. And maybe it'll catch on. Maybe it won't. It didn't hit right away, and
Right.
maybe it will catch on as the time goes on.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think, while the first two episodes, from what the reviews said, um, were decent, I think as the
Mhm.
series goes on, remember, this is a series that Steven Spielberg was reportedly heavily involved in and
Yeah.
whatnot. So there's got to be some good stuff coming along the way. It's a wait and see approach. It's only the first episode. First
Right.
episode. We got plenty of Halo to go to.
Mhm.
Before we go, there's a quick question here. When do you think they'll introduce Cortana in the series? I wouldn't be surprised if it's the next episode,
Yeah.
but
She plays a huge part of John's I guess like his Jiminy Cricket, right? She's kind of his conscious, his conduit into learning about all the machines,
mm,
the covenant, all the extra stuff that goes on. And then, part of the story of the games is him, essentially rescuing her.
oh yeah,
Not necessarily, I wouldn't say falling in love with her, but caring about her as an AI, as
right.
an emotional presence in his life. So I think that it'd be a good thing to introduce her relatively quickly.
The
And
adventures those 2 go on,
oh
yeah,
yeah,
I mean, next episode,
yeah,
I'd be surprised if they didn't, just, in my opinion, but I think that's gonna do it for our episode 1 recap of Halo series. Sean, thank you so much for joining me, and, thank you for being a fellow Halo fan. I appreciate that, man. That's awesome. Before we go, can you plug anything, social media, YouTube channels?
yeah. Follow me on Twitter at Sean Wingblade. Spell Sean correctly, SEAN. All one word, Sean Wingblade. Just how it sounds. And if you see down below over here, Flick and Reel on YouTube. This channel much bigger than our own. We're so close to 250 subs. We're working our way up. We do weekly reviews. We do hangout shows. We do trailer reactions. We do a little bit of everything, and we try to have
Yeah.
some fun. And so if you like anything that I said or any of the other people, Jesse, Scott, and Allison over there in the show, please come check us out. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I tune in to their shows quite often, and I can tell you, it's very entertaining. Check them out. And of course, you guys can find me on Twitter at FandomUnited21. Apocalypse Movies, we will be doing weekly Halo series reviews. Next one will be in about a week from now. On Tuesdays, we do our Apocalypse Now movie hangout show. Myself and the guys, Brian, Jake, Jacob, Keith, hang out, talk movies, TV shows, all that good stuff. Once again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and be sure to leave us your thoughts as you watch either in live or on playback. That's going to do it. Until next week, you guys take care.